The house smelled like someone else's memories. I stood in the foyer of the open house on Hawthorne Street, watching strangers drift through rooms that would never be mine. Not at this price. Not with the counteroffer I'd just received from my real estate agent, a polite rejection wrapped in professional language that meant someone with deeper pockets wanted this more than I did. Ivy tugged at my sleeve. Mama, can I go see the backyard? I glanced toward the French doors at the end of the hallway where afternoon light pooled on hardwood floors. The listing agent was occupied with a couple examining crown molding with the intensity of archaeologists. Stay where I can see you, I said. She was already gone. I should have followed immediately. I should have remembered that 7-year-olds have a different definition of where I can see you than their mothers do. But I was tired, the kind of tired that lives in your bones after 3 years of single motherhood, of late nights finishing design projects, while Ivy slept, of pretending everything was fine, when the rent kept climbing and the freelance checks kept shrinking. I counted to 30. Then I went looking for my daughter. The backyard was smaller than it appeared in photos, the way everything in real estate always is. A Japanese maple threw shadows across flagstone pavers. Someone had loved this garden once. You could see it in the careful placement of hostas in the stone bench tucked beneath the tree's canopy. Ivy sat on that bench next to a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, dark-haired, wearing a gray sweater that looked expensive, in the way expensive things do when they're trying not to be noticed. His hands were clasped between his knees, and he was staring at nothing in particular or everything at once. The kind of stare I recognized because I'd worn it myself on bad mornings. Are you sad too? Ivy asked him. I froze at the doorway. The man turned to look at my daughter. Something shifted in his expression, surprise maybe, or recognition of something he didn't expect to find in a child's question. Yeah, he said finally. I guess I am. Me too sometimes, Ivy said, swinging her legs. Mama says it's okay to be sad. She says it means you love something. I needed to interrupt this. I needed to apologize for my daughter bothering a stranger to pull her away with some excuse about needing to see the upstairs bedrooms. Instead, I stood there watching this man's face rearrange itself around whatever grief my 7-year-old had accidentally touched. Your mama sounds smart, he said. She is, but she cries in the shower so I won't hear. Jesus Christ. I stepped onto the patio, my face burning. Ivy. They both looked up. The man stood quickly and I saw him actually see me for the first time the way people do when they're pulled out of their own heads by necessity. His eyes were hazel, I noticed, the kind that couldn't decide between green and gold. I'm so sorry, I said. She's kids don't really understand boundaries. It's fine. He smiled and it almost reached his eyes. I'm Cole Brennan. I'm with the listing agent. He said it like someone who'd started a sentence without knowing how it would end. Ivy hopped off the bench. I'm Ivy. This is my mama Maren. We're looking for a house because our apartment is too small and the people upstairs sound like elephants. Ivy. It's true, you said so last week when they were moving furniture at midnight. Cole Brennan's smile became more genuine. Sounds like you definitely need a new place. We're not going to get this one, Ivy announced with the brutal honesty of children. Mama says someone offered more money. I wanted the flagstones to swallow me. We should let Mr. Brennan get back to whatever he was doing. Actually, he said, I was just leaving, but if you are serious about finding a house, he reached into his pocket and produced a business card. I'm a real estate agent. The woman inside is my colleague. I used to handle this property before. There was a story in that before. I could hear the weight of it. I took the card. His fingers brushed mine briefly, and I noticed they were cold despite the mild October afternoon. Thank you, but I don't know if we can afford. Call me anyway, he said. There are always options people don't know about. He walked past us toward the house, then paused at the doorway. Your daughter asked me if I was sad. I nodded, mortified. I was, he said, but it's been a while since anyone asked. So thank you. Then he was gone, leaving Ivy and me alone in the garden with the Japanese maple and the careful hostas and the ghost of someone else's happiness. I like him, Ivy said. You just met him. He has sad eyes, like you. I looked down at the business card. Cole Brennan, it said, Portland Realty Group, and beneath that in smaller print, specializing in residential properties and new beginnings. New beginnings. What a thing to specialize in. Come on, I told Ivy. Let's go home. She took my hand as we walked back through the house that would never be ours. I slipped the card into my pocket and tried not to think about hazel eyes or the way a stranger had sat with my daughter in a garden and admitted to sadness like it was the most natural thing in the world. I didn't call Cole Brennan. For 3 days, his card sat on my kitchen counter next to the electric bill and a permission slip for Ivy's field trip. I looked at it every morning while making coffee, and every morning I told myself I'd throw it away. Real estate agents were salespeople. They smiled and made promises and disappeared once the commission check cleared. I'd learned that lesson during the divorce when everyone who'd seemed helpful suddenly had more important clients to attend to. Besides, I didn't need help finding a house I couldn't afford. On Thursday afternoon, my phone rang while I was finishing a logo design for a craft brewery in Bend. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Ms. Hollis, this is Cole Brennan. We met at the open house on Hawthorne. I closed my laptop. I remember. I hope you don't mind me calling. Lisa, the listing agent, gave me your contact info from the sign-in sheet. I wanted to follow up about your house search. Professional, polite, exactly what I'd expected. I appreciate it, but I think we're going to hold off for a while. The market's pretty competitive right now. It is, he agreed, but I've been looking at properties in your price range, and there are a few that might work. One just came on the market this morning. It needs some cosmetic work, but it's structurally sound, and the owners are motivated to sell quickly. I picked up his card, running my thumb over the embossed lettering. Mr. Brennan, Cole. Cole, I'm not really in a position to. Could I show you the house just one? If you hate it, I'll leave you alone. There was something in his voice that wasn't quite eagerness, more like need maybe, the need to do something useful, to help someone. I understood that instinct. It's what makes you volunteer for the PTA even when you're drowning in deadlines. It's what makes you say yes when you should say no. When I heard myself ask, tomorrow 4:30, it's in Selwood near the park. Ivy would still be at aftercare. I'd have to arrange pickup, rearrange my afternoon, step into the machinery of hope and disappointment that was house hunting in Portland. Okay, I said, tomorrow. After we hung up, I stared at my phone for a long moment. Then I texted my sister, going to look at a house tomorrow with a real estate agent. Can you watch Ivy after school? Vivian's response came within seconds. OMG, yes, finally. What's the house like? Haven't seen it yet. What's the agent like, single? I should have known better than to tell my sister anything. Just helping me look at houses, Viv. That's what they all say. Then suddenly you're married with a phone and a mortgage. I'm just saying, you could use some help. I put the phone face down on the counter and went back to my design work. But I couldn't focus. Instead, I kept thinking about a stranger in a garden admitting to sadness, about the way he'd looked at Ivy like she'd asked him a question no one else dared to, about the way his fingers had been cold when they brushed mine. The house in Selwood was a 1920s bungalow with peeling paint and overgrown boxwoods flanking the front steps. A for sale sign tilted slightly in the yard, and the lawn needed mowing. It looked tired the way houses do when their owners have stopped caring or stopped being able to care. Cole was waiting on the porch when I pulled up. He wore jeans and a navy blue jacket, and he looked more relaxed than he had at the open house. More present. Thanks for coming, he said as I climbed the steps. I know it doesn't look like much from the outside. I'm not picky about curb appeal. Good, because there isn't any. He unlocked the door and pushed it open. But wait till you see the bones. The interior was better than I'd expected. Hardwood floors throughout crown molding, built-in bookshelves flanking a brick fireplace. The kitchen was dated avocado appliances and laminate countertops, but the layout was functional. 3 bedrooms upstairs. One large enough for Ivy, one for me, one I could use as an office. I could see it. That was the dangerous part. I could see Ivy's stuffed animals on the windowsill in the smaller bedroom. I could see my desk in front of the dormer window, morning light perfect for working. I could see us here. The roof's only 5 years old, Cole said, following me through the rooms. New furnace last winter. The electrical's been updated. It just needs paint and some landscaping. What's the asking price, he told me. It was more than I wanted to spend, but less than I'd feared. There's one issue, he continued. The sellers want a quick close, 30 days. They're relocating for work and need to move fast. 30 days. I'd need a mortgage approval, inspection, appraisal. It was tight but doable if nothing went wrong, and things always went wrong. I'm interested, I said carefully, but I'd need to see the inspection report and I'd want to offer below asking. I can work with that. Cole leaned against the door frame of what would be my office. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why are you doing this alone? The question surprised me, not because it was invasive, it wasn't really, but because he asked it like someone who understood what alone felt like. It's just me and Ivy, I said. Her father's not in the picture. I didn't mean. He stopped, recalibrated. I meant, do you have family, friends? People usually bring someone when they're looking at houses. My sister offered, but she'd have opinions about everything and I'd end up buying whatever she thought was best just to avoid the argument. He smiled. Older or younger? Older, and convinced she knows better about everything. Sounds exhausting. You have no idea. We stood there in the empty office, afternoon light slanting through dusty windows. I noticed things about him I hadn't before: the faint scar near his left eyebrow, the way his wedding ring finger had a tan line where a ring used to be, the careful way he kept space between us like he'd forgotten how to be close to people. Why'd you call me? I asked. I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of clients. Honestly. He looked out the window at the overgrown backyard. Your daughter asked me if I was Sarah, and I realized I've been walking around for 2 years with everyone pretending not to notice. But she just asked. She's good at that, seeing things adults try to hide. Is that why you cry in the shower? I felt my face flush. She told you that? She did. Sorry, I shouldn't have. It's fine. She's not wrong. I moved to the window beside him. Her father wasn't a good man. He was controlling, manipulative. By the time I left, I'd convinced myself I was the problem, that I was too sensitive, too demanding. It took me a long time to understand that loving someone shouldn't feel like drowning. I don't know why I told him that. Maybe because he'd admitted to sadness first. Maybe because this empty house felt like neutral ground, a place where honesty was easier than armor. I'm sorry, Cole said quietly. Don't be. I got Ivy out of it. And I learned I'm stronger than I thought. You must be. Single-parent freelancer, house hunting in this market. He turned to look at me. That takes guts. Or desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. We walked through the rest of the house in comfortable silence. He pointed out things I should know: where the water heater was, which windows needed new seals, how the garage could be converted to more living space. But mostly we just moved through rooms, and I imagined what it would feel like to live here, to have space, to have something that was mine. When we finished, I stood in the living room and let myself want it, really want it. The wanting felt dangerous and necessary all at once. I'll put in an offer, I said. 10,000 below asking. Cole nodded. I'll write it up tonight and submit first thing tomorrow. But Maren, it was the first time he'd used my name. There's likely to be multiple offers. This house is priced to sell fast. I'll do everything I can, but you should be prepared for competition. Story of my life, I said. We walked out together and he locked the door behind us. The October afternoon had turned cold gray clouds rolling in from the west. It would rain soon. It always rained in Portland in October. Thank you, I told him at my car, for showing me the house, for not treating me like I'm wasting your time. You're not wasting my time. He said it simply, like it was obvious. I'll call you tomorrow once I hear back from the sellers. I drove home thinking about empty rooms and what it meant to want something you might not get. When I picked up Ivy from Vivian's house, my sister took one look at my face and grinned. You found one, didn't you? Maybe. And what's it like? How many bedrooms is there? A yard? 3 bedrooms, small yard, needs work. And the agent, I shot her a look. Professional. That's not what I asked. Viv, I'm just saying you've been alone for 3 years. You're allowed to notice when a man is attractive. I didn't say he was attractive. You didn't have to. You have that look. What look? The one that says you're trying very hard not to have a look. I picked up Ivy's backpack. We should go. It's a school night. Vivian followed me to the door. Mom's coming for dinner on Saturday. She wants to meet this mystery agent. What? No. Why would you? Because I told her you were finally looking at houses and she got excited, and you know how she is. Besides, it'll be good for her to see you're moving forward. I am moving forward. I've been moving forward. I know, but she worries. Vivian squeezed my arm. Just let us help sometimes. Okay, you don't have to do everything alone. But I did. Because the moment you let people help, they started having opinions. They started making decisions for you. They started thinking they knew what was best. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. Thanks for watching, Ivy, I said and left before my sister could see how much her concern felt like criticism. Cole called the next morning while I was making Ivy's lunch. We have a problem, he said. My stomach dropped. They rejected my offer. Not exactly. They received another offer last night, cash $15,000 over asking, no inspection contingency. They're giving you 24 hours to counter. I set down the jar of peanut butter. I can't go 15,000 over. I'm already stretching my budget. I know, but there might be another way. He paused. The sellers are motivated by timeline more than price. If you can close in 21 days instead of 30, and you're willing to cover closing costs, we might be able to make this work without matching the other offer. 21 days. It would mean expediting everything: inspection, appraisal, loan approval. Any delay, and the whole thing would collapse. Can I think about it? Of course, but I need to submit by 5 p.m. today. After we hung up, I stared at my phone. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of: getting invested, getting hopeful, only to have it pulled away because someone else wanted it more. Someone else always wanted it more. I called Vivian. What would you do? I asked after explaining the situation. Go for it. You love the house, right? I like it. Maren. Fine, I love it. Then fight for it. You're always so careful, so cautious. Sometimes you have to take a risk. And if it falls apart, then you find another house. But at least you tried. I thought about that empty office with the dormer window, about Ivy having her own room, about not hearing elephants above us anymore. Okay, I said, I'll do it. I called Cole back and told him to submit the counteroffer. He said he'd call me as soon as he heard anything, and I spent the rest of the day in a state of anxious distraction, refreshing my email every 5 minutes, jumping every time my phone buzzed. At 4:30, he called. They accepted, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Congratulations, you're buying a house. I sat down on the couch, suddenly dizzy. Really? Really, I'm emailing you the paperwork now. We need to schedule the inspection ASAP, and I'll send you my lender contacts for the mortgage. But Maren, you did it. I realized I was crying, stupid, relieved, exhausted tears. Thank you, I managed. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Now the real work begins. He wasn't kidding. The next 10 days were a blur of appointments and paperwork and small emergencies. The inspection found minor issues: old plumbing that would need replacing, eventually some roof shingles that should be repaired. The appraisal came in slightly low, requiring renegotiation. My mortgage application hit a snag when they questioned my irregular freelance income. Through all of it, Cole was there. Not hovering, not pressuring, just present. He answered my panicked texts at midnight when I was convinced the whole thing was going to fall apart. He explained confusing documents and connected me with contractors who could give quotes on repairs. He showed up at the inspection and pointed out things I would have missed. And slowly, without meaning to, I started to rely on him. It should have scared me. After Drew, I'd promised myself I'd never depend on anyone again. But Cole wasn't Drew. He didn't make decisions for me or tell me what I should do. He just offered options and let me choose. It felt dangerous to trust that. On a Thursday afternoon, 2 weeks before closing, I met Cole at the house to let in a plumber for a second opinion on the pipes. We stood in the kitchen and he handed me a coffee he'd picked up on the way. You remembered, I said, surprised. Oat milk, latte, extra shot. You told me that's how you survive inspections. I had told him that 10 days ago in passing. The fact that he'd remembered made something warm unfold in my chest. Cole, I said carefully, can I ask you something? Sure. Why are you doing all this, going above and beyond, I mean? Is this normal for your clients? He leaned against the counter, considering the question. Honestly, no. Most clients I show houses, write offers, and move on. But you, he trailed off, then started again. You remind me that houses aren't just investments. They're where people build lives. That's very philosophical for a real estate agent. I used to be more philosophical. Before. There was that word again. Before. What happened before? I asked quietly. He looked at his coffee cup. My wife died 2 years ago. We just bought a house, the one on Hawthorne, actually. The one where we met. She picked out every detail. Paint colors, light fixtures, the Japanese maple in the back. She was so happy. I remembered the garden, the careful placement of everything. Someone had loved that space. Cole, I'm so sorry. 6 months after we moved in, she was in a car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. She died instantly. He said it flatly, like he'd said it 100 times before, and all the emotion had been wrung out. I couldn't live there after. Couldn't even walk through the rooms without seeing her everywhere. So I sold it. Is that why you were there that day at the open house? He nodded. Lisa called me, said the new owners were selling. I don't know why I went, curiosity maybe, or punishment. I sat in the garden and thought about how Claire would hate what they'd done to her hostas. That's her name, Claire. Was. Her name was Claire. He looked at me finally. She was a good person. Better than me. Everyone said so at the funeral. She was so kind, so generous, so perfect. And she was, which made it worse somehow. I understood what he wasn't saying. Because you can't be angry at perfect people for leaving. Exactly. Something shifted in his expression, recognition maybe that I understood. You get it. I do, it's different, but I do. When I left Drew, everyone told me I was brave, that I'd done the right thing. But I felt like a failure. Like if I'd just tried harder, been better somehow, it wouldn't have fallen apart. That's not true. I know that now, but for a long time I couldn't believe it. We stood in that kitchen, two people who'd learned that life doesn't always bend toward happiness, and sometimes the hardest thing is forgiving yourself for surviving. The plumber arrived, breaking the moment, but as we walked through the house with him pointing out pipes and discussing options, I felt something shift between Cole and me. We'd gone from professional acquaintances to something else. Not quite friends, not quite anything definable, just two people who'd seen each other's broken place and hadn't looked away. Later, after the plumber left and we were locking up, Cole asked, "What are you doing Saturday?" "Ivy has soccer, then my sister's forcing me to have dinner with my mother." "Why swaying? My firm's having a client appreciation event. Food, music, free drinks. You should come." "I'm not really thumbing." "Bring Ivy, it's family friendly. And there'll be other clients there, people who can answer questions about the neighborhood contractors you might need later." It made sense professionally, networking, meeting people who might be useful. But the way he asked casual, careful, like he was trying not to want my answer too much, that wasn't professional. "Okay," I said, "we'll come." He smiled, and this time it reached his eyes completely. "Good, I'll text you the details." I drove home thinking about hostas and Japanese maples and how a stranger's grief had become somehow tangled with my own. And I thought about the way Cole had remembered how I took my coffee. Small things, meaningless things, except they weren't meaningless at all. Saturday arrived with that particular kind of October sunshine that tricks you into thinking summer might return. I dressed carefully, not too casual, not too formal, and told myself it wasn't because Cole would be there. Ivy wore her favorite dress with the dinosaurs on it and asked 17 questions about whether there would be cake at this party. "Probably," I said, brushing her hair. "Mr. Cole will be there." "Yes." "Good, I like him." "You like everyone." "No, I don't. I didn't like that man at the grocery store who yelled at you about the parking spot." "That's different." "How?" I didn't have a good answer, so I just finished her braid and told her to get her shoes. The event was at a wine bar in the Pearl District, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. When we arrived, Cole was talking to a couple near the entrance. He saw us and excused himself immediately. "You came," he said, and the relief in his voice was more obvious than it should have been. "We came for the cake," Ivy announced. "Smart. The dessert table's in the back." He crouched down to her level. "Hey, Ivy, you look nice." "Thanks. I like your tie. It has tiny houses on it." He glanced down at his tie like he'd forgotten what he was wearing. "Good eye. A client gave it to me as a joke, but I kind of love it." "It's perfect for a real estate agent," I said. "That's what I thought." He stood. Come on, I'll introduce you to some people. The next hour was a pleasant blur of conversations with other clients, a contractor who specialized in historic renovations, a loan officer who gave me her card. Ivy found the dessert table and made friends with another little girl, and they spent 20 minutes creating elaborate backstories for the cupcakes. I was talking to a woman about property taxes when I felt a hand on my lower back. Sorry to interrupt, Cole said. Maren, could I borrow you for a second? I excused myself and followed him to a quieter corner near the windows. Outside, people walked dogs and pushed strollers living their ordinary Saturday lives. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, He ran a hand through his hair. This is going to sound weird, but I need a favor. Okay? My colleague Lisa's been hinting that I should bring someone to the firm's holiday party next month. She thinks I'm becoming a hermit, which isn't entirely wrong. He glanced at me, then away. I know we barely know each other, but would you consider going with me just as friends? It would get everyone off my back about dating. I stared at him. You want me to be your fake date? That sounds worse when you say it out loud. It was absurd. It was the kind of thing that happened in romance novels, not real life. And yet there was something oddly perfect about it. Two people who understood loneliness helping each other pretend they weren't lonely. Okay, I heard myself say. His eyebrows rose. Really? Really, on one condition. Name it. You come to my family dinner tomorrow. My sister's been setting me up with her dentist for months, and if she knows I'm seeing someone, even fake seeing someone, she'll finally leave me alone. Cole's expression shifted from surprise to understanding. So we'd be fake dating each other. Mutually beneficial fake dating. Exactly. He started to laugh. That's actually kind of genius. Right, we both get what we need, no actual complications. We shook on it, and his hand was warm this time, no longer cold like that first day in the garden. Something about that felt significant. There is one problem, he said, still holding my hand. What? If we're going to convince anyone we're dating, we should probably know more about each other than favorite coffee orders. He had a point. So what do? Have dinner tomorrow before your family thing. We'll go through the basics, how we met, how long we've been together, all the details people might ask about. Like studying for a test. Exactly like that. Ivy appeared at my elbow, her face covered in chocolate frosting. Mama, can I have another cupcake? You have already had two. But they're really good. Cole crouched down again. Tell you what, if you save room for real dinner, I'll take you and your mom out for ice cream tomorrow. Deal. Ivy's eyes went wide. Really? Really? But only if you listen to your mom about the cupcake. Okay. She ran back to her new friends, shouting something about ice cream. I looked at Cole. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Besides, she's a good kid. And it'll give us a chance to practice looking like a couple before the real test with your family. This is insane, I said, completely. He smiled, but it might actually work. As I drove home later, Ivy asleep in the back seat with frosting still on her cheek, I thought about the deal I just made. Fake dating. It was ridiculous. It was doomed to fail. It was going to make everything complicated. But for the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than tired. I felt emotive. Like I'd made a decision that was mine alone, something that had nothing to do with being a good mother or a responsible adult or anything other than what I wanted. Even if what I wanted was pretend. Vivian texted while I was putting Ivy to bed. Still on for dinner tomorrow, Mom's making pot roast. Yeah, and I'm bringing someone. Who, Cole? My real estate agent. OMG. Maren. Is this a date? It's complicated. That's code for yes. I'm telling Mom to set an extra place. I put my phone down and tried not to think about how many ways this could go wrong, but as I turned out the lights and listened to Ivy's soft breathing from the next room, I realized I was smiling. Maybe complicated wasn't always bad. Maybe sometimes it was exactly what you needed. Sunday afternoon arrived with rain. Because of course it did. The kind of steady Oregon rain that makes you forget the sun exists, that seeps into your bones and reminds you winter is coming, whether you're ready or not. Cole picked us up at 3 for our study session dinner before the family ordeal. He drove a sensible Honda CR-V that was impeccably clean, except for a coffee cup in the holder, and a phone charger cord snaking across the passenger seat. "Sorry about the mess," he said as I climbed in. I looked at the immaculate interior. "If this is messy, you should see my car." Ivy bounced in the back seat. "Are we really getting ice cream?" "After dinner," Cole promised, "and only if you finish your vegetables." "That's what Mama always says." "Then your mama and I are in agreement." He caught my eye as he said it, and something warm passed between us. We were doing this, actually doing this, pretending to be something we weren't, so everyone would leave us alone about being what they thought we should be. We went to a family restaurant near Laurelhurst Park, the kind of place with laminated menus and servers who call you hun. Ivy ordered chicken fingers and proceeded to build a fort out of sugar packets, while Cole and I worked out the details of our fictional relationship. "So," he said, pulling out his phone to take notes, "how long have we been together?" "A month, long enough to be serious, but not so long that people will wonder why they haven't heard about it." "Works for me. How did we meet?" "The truth, actually. You were my real estate agent. We hit it off during house showings." He typed, "First date, coffee, something low-key. We talked for 3 hours and didn't notice the cafe closed." "That's good. Specific but believable." He looked up. "What do I do that annoys you?" I blinked. "What? If we've been dating a month, there's got to be something about me that drives you crazy. People always ask couples that. It makes the relationship seem real." He had a point. I thought about the last 2 weeks. "You're very punctual, aggressively punctual. You show up 10 minutes early to everything and then text me that you're here, and I feel guilty for not being ready." A smile tugged at his mouth. "That's actually accurate." "Your turn. What do I do that annoys you?" He considered this. "You apologize too much, even when you haven't done anything wrong. Someone bumps into you and you say sorry." I felt myself bristle, then realized he was right. "That's from Drew. He always made me feel like I was in the way." "I know, and you're not." He said it quietly, holding my gaze. "You're not in anyone's way, Maren." Ivy looked up from her sugar packet fort. "Are you guys fighting?" "No, sweetie," I said. "Just talking." "You look like you're fighting. That's how you and Daddy used to look before he left." The silence that followed was heavy. Cole reached across the table and took my hand, and I realized this was part of the performance, showing Ivy that conflict didn't mean abandonment, that people could disagree without everything falling apart. "We're not fighting," he told her. "Sometimes adults need to say hard things to each other, but that doesn't mean anyone's leaving." Ivy studied him for a long moment, then went back to her sugar packets. But I saw her shoulders relax. I looked down at Cole's hand covering mine. His fingers were long, calloused at the tips, like he did more than just show houses, like he built things or played guitar or did something with his hands that left marks. "Thank you," I murmured. "For what?" "For knowing what she needed to hear." Our food arrived, and we spent the next hour going through the details. Where we'd gone on dates, the Japanese Garden Powell's bookstore, Saturday market. What we liked about each other: I liked that he listened. He liked that I noticed small things. What we disagreed about: he thought pineapple belonged on pizza. I thought this was a moral failing. By the time we finished, I almost believed our own story. Ivy did fall asleep on the way to Vivian's house, curled up in the back seat with her jacket as a blanket. Cole pulled up outside my sister's immaculate Craftsman in Irvington and turned off the engine. "You ready for this?" he asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." He came around to open my door, the kind of gesture Drew would have mocked as old-fashioned, and I let him. Then he gently lifted Ivy from the back seat, and my daughter instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck without waking. Something about seeing him hold her careful and sure made my chest ache. Vivian opened the door before we could knock. She took one look at Cole carrying Ivy, and her face lit up like Christmas morning. "Well," she said, "this is adorable." "Hi, Viv. This is Cole. Cole, my sister Vivian." "Nice to meet you," Cole said, managing a handshake while still holding Ivy. Come in, come in. Mom's in the kitchen." "Where should I put the sleeping beauty?" "Guest room couch is fine," Vivian said, leading the way. I followed them through the house, noting the fresh flowers on the entry table, the way everything was coordinated and perfect. My sister's life looked like a Pottery Barn catalog. Mine looked like the clearance bin at Target. Cole laid Ivy down carefully, tucking Vivian's throw blanket around her. Then we went to face my family. Mom was at the stove, stirring something that smelled like childhood and every Sunday dinner I'd ever attended. She turned when we entered, and I watched her eyes go from me to Cole and back again, her expression cycling through surprise, assessment, and barely concealed delight. Mom, this is Cole Brennan. Cole, my mother, Patricia. Mrs. Hollis, it's wonderful to meet you. Cole offered his hand. Thank you for including me on such short notice. Please call me Patricia. Mom was using her company voice, the one she saved for church and parent-teacher conferences. Maren's told us so much about you. This was a lie. I'd told them almost nothing. All good things, I hope, Cole said smoothly. She said you helped her find a house. That's quite a first meeting. I got lucky. The right place at the right time. We settled into the living room with drinks wine for me and Vivian, whiskey for Cole, sparkling water for Mom, who never drank. Vivian's husband, David, appeared from his office and immediately started asking Cole about the real estate market, giving me a brief reprieve from the scrutiny. But I could feel Mom watching me, cataloging the way I sat, the way I held my wine glass, looking for cracks in the story. So, she said during a lull, how long have you two been seeing each other? About a month, Cole said right on cue. And you didn't mention it, Maren? I wanted to make sure it was real before I said anything. You know how it is. Mom's expression softened slightly. I do. After everything with Drew, you have every right to be careful. She turned to Cole. I hope you understand we're protective of her and of Ivy. I'd expect nothing less, Cole said. Family should be protective. Do you have family nearby? I felt him tense slightly. My parents retired to Arizona. I don't see them as often as I should. And are you close? We're working on it. It was a deflection so smooth I almost missed it. But I'd spent enough time with him now to recognize when he was redirecting a conversation away from uncomfortable territory. Vivian saved us by announcing dinner was ready. We moved to the dining room where the table was set with Mom's good china and fresh flowers. It was all very nice, very civilized, very much like every family dinner I'd ever attended where people said pleasant things and avoided the truth. Cole pulled out my chair before sitting. Drew would have thought this was ridiculous, but Cole did it naturally like it hadn't occurred to him not to. The pot roast was perfect the way Mom's pot roast always was. We passed dishes and made small talk about the weather, about the house I was buying, about Ivy's soccer team. Cole answered questions about his work, his hobbies. He liked hiking, hadn't been lately, but wanted to get back to it, and his taste in movies. He was good at this, I realized, making people comfortable, drawing them out, probably why he was successful at his job. So, Cole, Mom said over dessert, what are your intentions with my daughter? I nearly choked on my pie. Mom, Vivian said, seriously, what? It's a reasonable question. Cole set down his fork. My intention is to make her happy, to support her, and to be someone she can count on. He glanced at me, and to not mess this up, which I'm terrified of doing because she's the best thing that's happened to me in a very long time. The table went quiet. Even Mom looked impressed. And the terrible thing was, I could almost believe he meant it. Well, Mom said finally, that's a good answer. After dinner, I helped Vivian clear plates while Mom showed Cole her garden through the window. David had retreated to watch football, his usual strategy for avoiding family dynamics. He's great, Vivian whispered as we loaded the dishwasher. Like really great. Where have you been hiding him? I haven't been hiding him, we've just been taking it slow. Well, stop taking it slow. That man looks at you like you're the only person in the room. Did he? I'd been so focused on playing my part that I hadn't noticed how he was playing his. He's a widower, I said quietly. His wife died 2 years ago. Vivian's expression shifted. Oh, God, that's awful. Yeah, so we're both a little broken, taking things day by day. Maybe that's good. You understand each other. Through the doorway, I watched Cole nodding at something Mom was saying, looking genuinely interested. He caught me watching and smiled, and I felt something in my chest constrict. This was fake. I needed to remember it was fake. We left around 8, Ivy still sleeping. Cole carried her to the car again, while I said goodbye to my family. Mom hugged me tight and whispered, don't let this one go. I wanted to tell her there was nothing to let go of, that this was an arrangement, a performance, a mutually beneficial lie. Instead, I just nodded and got in the car. Cole didn't start driving immediately. He sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the dark street ahead. Your family's nice, he said. They're a lot. All families are a lot. He turned to look at me. You okay? Yeah, just tired. Thanks for doing that. You were really convincing. So were you. We sat in the quiet car with Ivy breathing softly in the back seat, and I realized I didn't want the evening to end, which was dangerous, which was exactly the kind of thinking that led to complications. I should get her home, I said. Yeah, of course. He drove us back to my apartment, helped me carry Ivy upstairs, and waited while I got her into pajamas and tucked into bed. When I came back to the living room, he was looking at the photos on my bookshelf. She looks like you, he said, pointing to a picture of Ivy as a toddler. Everyone says she looks like Drew, but I see me in her eyes. Definitely your eyes. He picked up another photo, me and Vivian as kids, gap-toothed and sunburned at the beach. You were cute. You are cute. He set the photo down quickly like he'd said too much. The air between us shifted, became charged with something that wasn't pretend. I should have said goodnight, should have thanked him again and shown him out. Instead, I heard myself ask, want some coffee? I know it's late, but I'm too wound up to sleep. Yeah, coffee sounds good. I made us both cups, and we sat on my couch with careful space between us. Outside, rain drummed against the windows. Inside, the apartment was warm and quiet, except for Ivy's occasional sleep sounds from her room. Can I ask you something? I said. Always. Earlier, when my mom asked about your family, you deflected. Why? He traced the rim of his mug. Because the truth isn't pretty. My parents didn't approve of Claire. They thought she wasn't good enough. Her family didn't have money. She worked as a teacher. They barely came to the wedding. He paused. When she died, they said things like, at least you're still young and you can start over. Like she was a failed business venture instead of my wife. Jesus, Cole. Yeah, so we're not close. They send Christmas cards and ask why I don't visit, and I make excuses because I can't tell them the truth that I can't forgive them for not loving the person I loved most. I set down my mug and moved closer, closing the space between us. I'm sorry, that's not fair to you. Life isn't fair to anyone. We just do the best we can. He looked at me. That's what I see in you, someone doing the best she can, raising a great kid, building a career, buying a house. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding it together. That's what strength looks like. Not the absence of struggle, but showing up anyway. His hand was on the couch between us, and without thinking, I covered it with mine. Thank you for tonight, for pretending with me. It didn't feel like pretending, he said quietly. Our eyes met, and I saw something there that scared me. Something real pushing through the performance. His gaze dropped to my mouth, and I realized with sudden clarity that he was going to kiss me. And I wanted him to. But before either of us could move, my phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. Mom wants to have you guys over for brunch next Sunday. She's already planning the menu. I think she's picking out wedding china. The moment broke. Cole pulled back, creating space again. I should go, he said. Early showing tomorrow. Right, of course. He stood and I walked him to the door. We hovered in that awkward space where hugs or handshakes or nothing at all felt equally wrong. Good night, Maren, he said finally. Good night. I watched him walk down the hallway, and I didn't close the door until he disappeared around the corner. Then I leaned against it and tried to calm my racing heart. This was supposed to be simple, uncomplicated, a transaction. But somewhere between pot roast and coffee, between his hand in mine and the way he looked at me, it had stopped being simple, and I had no idea what to do about that. The next week passed in a blur of closing preparations and increasingly complicated feelings. Cole and I texted daily about inspection reports and title insurance, but we also texted about other things, stupid things. He sent me a photo of a dog in a sweater at the park. I sent him a meme about Portland rain. We talked about nothing and everything, and each conversation made it harder to remember this wasn't real. On Wednesday, Ivy came home from school crying. I found her in her room, curled up on her bed with her favorite stuffed rabbit. Baby, what's wrong? Madison said I don't have a dem. She said only weird kids don't have dads. The fury was instant burning. Madison is wrong. Lots of kids have one parent. That doesn't make you weird. But she's right. I don't have a dad. You have me. And Aunt Vivian and Grandma and people who love you so much. It's not the same. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Why did Daddy leave? Was it because of me? This was my worst nightmare. The question I dreaded since the divorce. No, sweetie, not because of you. Never because of you. Your father left because he wasn't ready to be the kind of parent you deserved. That's about him, not you. But I must have done something wrong. You didn't. You were perfect then, and you're perfect now. I pulled her close. Some people just can't handle love. It scares them. So they run. Like I was running from whatever was happening with Cole. That night after Ivy was asleep, I texted Cole, "Can I call you not about the house?" He called me instead. "What's wrong?" I told him about Madison, about Ivy's question, about the way my daughter was starting to believe she wasn't enough. "That's bullshit," Cole said, and I could hear the anger in his voice. "She's 7 years old. She shouldn't have to think about why her father's a coward. I don't know how to fix this." "You can't. You can just keep showing up, keep loving her, keep proving that she matters. Eventually she'll believe it." "You sound like you're speaking from experience." Silence. Then, "Claire and I talked about having kids. She wanted them. I kept saying we had time, we should wait until we were more settled. I was so focused on my career, on making enough money, on everything being perfect." His voice cracked. "We never got our eventually." "Cole, no, let me finish. After she died, I realized all that waiting was bullshit. All those perfect conditions I wanted. They don't exist. You just have to choose to show up for the people you love. And you do that. Every day. For Ivy. That's not nothing." I was crying now, quiet tears I didn't want him to hear. "How do you always know the right thing to say?" "Wow." "I don't. I just know what I needed someone to tell me 2 years ago." We talked for another hour about nothing and everything. About his favorite hiking trails and my design projects, and whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie. When we finally hung up, it was past midnight, and I felt less alone than I had in years. That should have been a warning sign. Friday afternoon, Cole texted, "Can you come by my office? Need you to sign some final closing documents." His office was in a converted warehouse in the Central East Side, all polished concrete and exposed ductwork. The receptionist directed me to his desk, which was neat except for a framed photo facing away from visitors. He saw me looking at it as I sat down. "That's Claire. Can I—" He hesitated, then turned the frame around. The woman in the photo was beautiful. Long, dark hair, bright smile, wearing a summer dress and laughing at something off camera. And she looked like me. Not identical, but enough similarities that it was unmistakable. Same hair color, same build, same general features. My stomach dropped. "Plie," I said carefully. "Is that why you called me after we met at the open house?" "What? No, I mean—" He ran his hand through his hair. "I noticed the resemblance." "Of course I did. But that's not why I wanted to help you." "Then why?" "Because your daughter asked me if I was sad, and for the first time in 2 years I told the truth. Because you were standing in that garden looking at me like you understood loss. Because helping you felt like something I could do right for once." I stared at the photo, at Claire's smile, at the way she looked so alive. Does she even look like me, or am I just a replacement? "You're not a replacement." He said it firmly. "You're nothing like her. She was optimistic, always seeing the best in people. You're cautious, protective. She loved being the center of attention. You'd rather observe from the sidelines. The only thing you have in common is you're both kind to people who don't deserve it. Like you, that. Like me. I should have been angry. Should have felt manipulated. Instead, I just felt sad. Sad for him, for Claire, for the way grief makes us reach for familiar shapes in the dark. "I need you to be honest with me," I said. "This whole thing, the fake dating, helping with the house, all of it, is it real, or am I just a convenient stand-in for what you lost?" He looked at me for a long moment. "I don't know," he said finally. "I wish I could tell you I have it all figured out. But the truth is, I'm terrified. Terrified of moving on, terrified of staying stuck, terrified that every feeling I have is either too much or not enough. That's not fair to me. I know, and I'm sorry. If you want to end this arrangement, I understand. I'll still help you close on the house. That's not conditional. I stood up. I need to think. Maren, I'll sign the papers. I'll be at your holiday party tomorrow because I said I would. But after that, I think we need space. I signed where he indicated, barely reading the documents. Then I left before I could say something I'd regret, or worse, before I could forgive him for something that maybe shouldn't be forgiven. That night, Ivy asked where Mr. Cole was. Isn't he having dinner with us? Not tonight, sweetie. Why not? He's busy with work. But he promised to teach me how to make paper airplanes, the kind that really fly. Of course he had, because Cole was good at making promises, at showing up, at being exactly what people needed until the moment it got too complicated. I helped Ivy with homework and made mac and cheese and pretended everything was fine. But after she went to bed, I pulled out the business card he'd given me that first day at the open house, specializing in residential properties and new beginnings. What a lie that was. New beginnings required letting go of old endings, and Cole was still standing in that garden, still looking at his wife's hostas, still loving someone who couldn't love him back. And I was still protecting myself from being hurt, still choosing safety over risk, still believing that keeping people at arm's length was the same as being strong. Maybe we were both pretending, just not in the way we'd planned. The holiday party was at a boutique hotel in Nob Hill, complete with a jazz trio and an open bar. I wore a black dress I'd bought specifically for this and felt overdressed the moment I arrived. Vivian had offered to watch Ivy, and when I dropped her off, my sister had taken one look at my face and asked what was wrong. Nothing, just tired. You're lying. I'm practicing for tonight. She'd hugged me. Whatever's going on, you can tell me. But I couldn't, because telling her would mean admitting I'd let myself care. That somewhere between fake dates and real conversations, I'd forgotten to guard my heart. Cole was waiting by the entrance wearing a dark suit that made him look older, more serious. When he saw me, something flickered across his face, relief, maybe that I'd actually come. Hi, he said. Hi. You look beautiful. Thanks. You clean up nice too. We stood there awkwardly, two people who'd been easy with each other until we weren't. Maren, about yesterday. Not here, I said. Let's just get through tonight. He nodded and we went inside. The party was crowded with Cole's colleagues and their partners, all drinking wine and talking about interest rates and market trends. Cole introduced me to everyone, his hand on my lower back, playing his part perfectly. I smiled and made small talk and laughed at jokes that weren't funny. We were good at pretending. An hour in, a woman approached us. She was in her 50s, elegantly dressed with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Cole, you actually brought someone. Lisa said you would, but I had my doubts. Sharon, this is Maren. Sharon runs the firm. The mysterious girlfriend. Sharon looked me up and down. I was beginning to think Cole had invented you. Nope, very real. I held up my wine glass as evidence. How did you two meet? He was my real estate agent. Ah, yes, the house in Selwood. Cole told me about it. Said you were very particular about what you wanted. Had he? I glanced at him, but he was looking at Sharon. Particular isn't wrong, I said. I knew what I needed. And did you find it? The question felt loaded. I'm still figuring that out. Sharon laughed. Honest, I like that. She turned to Cole. Don't let this one go. Women who say what they mean are rare. After she left, Cole got us fresh drinks. Sorry about Sharon. She's intense. She seems nice. She is. She's been trying to set me up with her daughter for 6 months. Why didn't you just date her daughter? Because I didn't want to, I wanted. He trailed off. What? I don't know. Something that felt real. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. The jazz trio started playing something slow and couples drifted to the makeshift dance floor. Cole held out his hand. We should probably dance. People are watching. I let him lead me to the floor. His hands settled on my waist, mine on his shoulder, and we swayed to music that was too romantic for a business party. Around us, other couples talked and laughed. We were silent. I'm sorry, he said finally, about everything. About Claire's photo, about not being honest about why I noticed you. You deserve better. Did you love her? Really love her? Yes. He said it without hesitation. I loved her so much, it terrified me. And then she was gone, and I realized all that fear was wasted. All the love I'd been too scared to show her, it went nowhere, just disappeared. That's not true. Love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. Does it? Because I don't know how to love someone without being afraid they'll leave, without holding back to protect myself. I understood that more than he knew. So what do we do? I don't know. Keep pretending until it feels real, or stop pretending and see what's actually there. The song ended. Another began. We kept dancing. Ivy asked about you, I said. She wanted to know when you were teaching her to make paper airplanes. Something softened in his expression. I didn't forget. I've been watching YouTube videos learning the advanced techniques. You don't have to. I want to. She's a good kid. She deserves people who keep their promises. Around us, the party continued. People laughed and clinked glasses and made plans for the future. And Cole and I danced in the middle of it all, two people pretending to be something we weren't, or maybe something we were too afraid to be. When the song finished, he walked me outside. The rain had stopped, leaving everything clean and glistening under streetlights. I should go, I said. Vivian's waiting. Maren, he caught my hand. Can we try this for real? Not fake dating, not an arrangement. Just see where it goes. I don't know if I can. Every time I let someone close, they leave. Drew left. My father left before I even knew him. I've built a life around not needing anyone, and you're asking me to tear that down. I'm not asking you to need me. I'm asking if you want me. There's a difference about, did I want him? Yes. God, yes. I wanted his steadiness and his sad eyes and the way he made me feel seen. I wanted his terrible punctuality and his careful way with Ivy, and the way he listened like my words mattered. But wanting wasn't enough. Not when the cost was another broken heart. I need time, I said. Okay, how much time? I don't know, until closing at least. Let's get through the house, and then we can figure out the rest. He nodded, though I could see the disappointment in his face. I can wait. I'm good at waiting. He kissed my forehead, and I let myself lean into it for just a moment. Then I pulled away and walked to my car, and I didn't look back because I was afraid if I did, I'd change my mind. Vivian took one look at me when I picked up Ivy and said, "What happened? I think I might be falling for someone I can't have." "Why can't you have him?" "Because he's still in love with someone else, and I'm still afraid of everyone who says they'll stay." She hugged me tight. "Then maybe you're perfect for each other. Two broken people figuring it out." Maybe. Or maybe we were just two people too damaged to risk being whole again. I carried sleeping Ivy to the car and drove home through wet streets, and I tried not to think about Cole's hand on my waist, his voice asking me to try. But I thought about it anyway. All night into morning, through coffee and breakfast and the ordinary moments that make up a life. I thought about it and wondered if being afraid was the same as being smart, or if it was just another way to be alone. Closing day arrived with unexpected sunshine, the kind that makes Portland feel like a different city entirely. I stood outside the title company office, keys to my new house in one hand, Ivy's hand in the other, and tried to feel victorious. Mostly I just felt tired. Cole was inside finishing paperwork with the sellers. We'd barely spoken in the 2 weeks since the holiday party, just professional texts about documents and wire transfers and final walkthroughs. He'd kept his distance, giving me the space I'd asked for. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt his absence like a missing tooth, my tongue constantly finding the gap. "Mama, are we really moving today?" Ivy asked, squinting up at me. "Not today, but soon. We have to paint first. Remember, you get to pick the color for your room. Purple, like the sky before it rains." "That's very specific." "Mr. Cole told me colors have names. Like there's purple, but there's also lavender and periwinkle and plum. He said I should think about what kind of purple makes me happy." Of course he did, because even when he wasn't around, he was around. The door opened and Cole emerged with the sellers, a young couple relocating to Seattle for tech jobs. They shook hands with him, then came over to give me the keys officially, even though I'd already received them inside. "Take good care of it," the wife said, her eyes a little misty. "We had our first baby in the front bedroom." "I will, I promise." After they left, it was just the three of us in the parking lot. Ivy broke the awkward silence by running to Cole and hugging his legs. We got the house. You helped us get the house. He crouched down to her level. You guys got the house. I just did the paperwork. Will you come see my room? Mama said I can paint it purple. Cole glanced at me uncertain. If your mom says it's okay. I should have said no, should have thanked him for his services and drawn a clean line under whatever this had been. Instead, I heard myself say, come by tomorrow. I'll be there cleaning. You can see what you helped us accomplish. Something in his expression shifted hope maybe, or relief. Tomorrow, yeah, I like that. He stood and we faced each other across 3 feet of parking lot concrete. Congratulations, Maren. You did it. We did it, I corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. You could have, you just wouldn't have had to. Then he got in his car and drove away, and Ivy and I stood there with keys to a house that suddenly felt emptier than it should. Vivian showed up the next morning with coffee, cleaning supplies, and unsolicited advice. She took one look at the house and immediately started making plans for every room. You need to knock out this wall, she said, gesturing at the kitchen. Open concept is essential for resale. I just bought it. I'm not thinking about resale. You should always think about resale. And these floors need refinishing. I know a guy. Of course you do. Ivy was in her future bedroom with a sketch pad drawing what she wanted on the walls. Vivian and I tackled the kitchen, scrubbing years of someone else's life off the counters. So, Vivian said casually, are you going to tell me what happened with Cole? Nothing happened. Maren, you've been miserable for 2 weeks. I'm not miserable, I'm focused. She stopped scrubbing and looked at me. You know what your problem is? I'm sure you'll tell me. You're so afraid of being hurt that you won't let yourself be happy. You find something good and immediately look for reasons to run. That's not true. Isn't it Drew was terrible, but before him, remember Adam's sweet guy loved you, wanted to get serious. You broke up with him because he used the wrong kind of coffee creamer. That's not why. And before Adam, there was Marcus, who you dumped because he wanted to meet your family too soon. I threw my sponge in the bucket. What's your point? My point is that you've been finding excuses to be alone for years, and now you've met someone who's actually good for you, and you're doing it again. Cole's not good for me. He's still in love with his dead wife. I look like her Viv. That's not healthy. So talk to him about it. Work through it. Don't just give up because it's complicated. You don't understand. Don't I? She sat down on the floor, her back against the cabinets. I'm getting divorced. The words hung there, impossible and obvious all at once. What? David and I are separating, have been for 6 months. We're just waiting until after the holidays to tell everyone. I sat down beside her. Viv, why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because everyone thinks we're perfect. Because I've spent the last 5 years telling you to find someone stable and make it work, and turns out I couldn't even do that myself. Ickham. What happened? She was quiet for a long moment. Nothing happened. That's the problem. We just stopped. Stopped talking, stopped touching, stopped being anything other than 2 people sharing a house. I kept thinking if I just tried harder, if I was just better, somehow it would get better, but it didn't. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I'm not telling you for sympathy. I'm telling you because I don't want you to make the same mistake. I waited for perfect. I waited for easy. And you know what? Perfect and easy don't exist. There's just real and hard and worth it. And you think Cole is worth it? I think you think he is. I think that scares you more than anything. She stood up, offering me her hand. Come on, let's finish this kitchen. And when Cole shows up, you're going to actually talk to him instead of running away. But Cole didn't show up. 4 o'clock came and went, then 5. I texted him, still coming by, no response. By 6, I'd convinced myself he'd changed his mind, that he'd realized this, whatever this was, wasn't worth the complication. Ivy kept asking where he was, and I kept making excuses until finally I told her he probably got busy with work. He promised, she said, her voice small. I know, baby. Sometimes grown-ups can't keep their promises even when they want to. Like Daddy, the comparison stung, because it was true, because I'd let Cole become important to my daughter, and now he was just another person who'd let her down. Vivian left around 7, squeezing my hand on the way out. Give him a chance to explain. But I was done giving chances. Ivy and I went home to the apartment, and I made her favorite dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup, and we watched a movie neither of us paid attention to. When I tucked her into bed, she asked one more time where Mr. Cole was. I don't know, sweetie. Did we do something wrong? No, you never did anything wrong. After she fell asleep, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the couch in the dark. My phone buzzed. Finally, Cole. But it wasn't a text. It was an email. A long email. Maren, I'm sorry I didn't come by today. I should have called. I should have explained. But I've been sitting in my car outside a therapist's office for the last 2 hours, trying to figure out how to say this. The truth is Claire didn't die in a car accident. She died by suicide. I've been lying about it for 2 years because it was easier than explaining. Easier than admitting that my wife was in so much pain that she couldn't see another way out. Easier than facing the fact that I missed every sign because I was too focused on my career, on the next sale, on everything except the person who mattered most. She left a note. It said she loved me but couldn't compete with my ambition anymore, that she felt invisible, that maybe if she was gone, I'd finally notice, and she was right. I noticed everything after she died. All the dinners I missed, all the conversations I cut short, all the times she reached for me and I was already reaching for my phone. I've been walking around for 2 years carrying this guilt, and then I met you and Ivy. And for the first time since Claire died, I felt like maybe I could be someone other than the man who failed his wife. But then you saw Claire's photo, and I realized I was doing it again. Not being honest, not showing up completely. Pretending I had it together when really I was just going through the motions. So I called a therapist, made an appointment, went today. It was the hardest thing I've done in 2 years, and I almost turned around 17 times. But I thought about you asking for space, about Ivy asking if I was sad, about how tired I am of pretending I'm okay when I'm not. I can't promise I have this figured out. I can't promise I won't fuck this up. But I can promise I'm trying, really trying. I understand if that's not enough. I understand if you need to move on. But I wanted you to know why I didn't show up today. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was trying to become someone who could. Cole. I read it 3 times, then I called him. He answered on the first ring. Hey, hey, my voice came out rough. You went to therapy? I did. How was it? Awful, necessary, both. He paused. I'm sorry I missed seeing the house, and I'm sorry I let Ivy down. She'll forgive you. She's 7. Forgiveness is her default setting. What about you? I thought about Vivian's words, about perfect and easy and worth it, about how I'd been so focused on protecting myself that I'd stopped living. I'm scared, Cole. I'm scared of caring about someone who might leave. I'm scared of not being enough. I'm scared that you'll always see Claire when you look at me. I won't lie and say I don't see the resemblance. But Maren, you're not a replacement. You're not a ghost. You're just you. Stubborn and careful and brave even when you don't feel brave. You're someone who puts her daughter before everything else, who cries in the shower so no one hears, who buys a house by herself because she's tired of waiting for permission to build a life. You barely know me. Then let me know you more. Let me show up for you and Ivy. Let me prove I'm not Drew or your father or anyone else who made you believe you weren't worth staying for. I walked to my window looking out at the dark street. Somewhere out there, Cole was in his car waiting for my answer. Come to the house tomorrow, I said. Ivy wants to show you her room, and I want to show you who I actually am when I'm not pretending I have it all together. Yeah, but Cole, I need you to know something too. What? I'm not perfect either. I'm anxious and controlling, and I push people away when they get too close. I'm probably going to mess this up. Then we'll mess it up together. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time thinking about second chances and the courage it takes to risk your heart again. The next day was Saturday. Ivy and I went to the new house early, and I let her pick out paint samples while I swept and scrubbed. Around 10, Cole arrived with a box under his arm and an expression that was half nervous, half hopeful. Hi, he said. Hi, what's in the box? Paper airplane supplies, the good kind. I told Ivy I'd teach her. She heard his voice and came running from her room, launching herself at him. You came, you came, you came, you came. He laughed, catching her. I said I would, didn't I? Mama said sometimes grown-ups can't keep promises. She's not wrong, but I'm going to try to keep mine. Deal. Deal. They spent the next hour in the living room making paper airplanes, simple ones, complex ones, ones that looped and dove and barely flew at all. I watched from the kitchen, ostensibly cleaning, but really just observing the way Cole showed Ivy how to fold each crease precisely the way he let her make mistakes without taking over the way he celebrated when her plane finally soared across the room. This was what it could look like, I thought. This casual intimacy, this ordinary magic. Eventually, Ivy got distracted by her room, leaving Cole and me alone with scattered paper airplanes all over the floor. Thanks for coming, I said. Thanks for letting me. He picked up one of the failed planes. Maren, I need to tell you something else. About Claire. Okay. After she died, I found a letter she'd written. Not the suicide note, a different one. Written 6 months earlier, like she knew she might need it someday. He pulled a worn envelope from his pocket. Can I read you part of it? I nodded. He unfolded the paper carefully. She wrote, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I need you to know this isn't your fault, even though you'll think it is. My brain was broken in ways neither of us understood. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to live, really live. Not just go through the motions. Find someone who makes you laugh. Have adventures. Be the person I fell in love with, the one who got lost somewhere along the way. Don't let my death be the end of your story. Let it be the thing that teaches you how precious every moment is. His voice cracked on the last sentence. I crossed the room and took his hand. She wanted you to be happy, I said. I know, but I felt like I didn't deserve to be happy, like being happy would be betraying her somehow. And now I think maybe the best way to honor her is to actually do what she asked. To choose life. To choose, he looked at me, to choose you, if you'll let me. Ivy's voice drifted from her room, singing to herself. Outside, someone was mowing their lawn. Ordinary sounds of an ordinary day. But standing there with Cole, his hand in mine, and Claire's words between us, everything felt extraordinary. I'm going to mess this up, I warned him. I'm going to be too much or not enough. I'm going to have bad days and push you away. Then I'll wait until you let me back in. I have a kid who comes first, always, as she should. And I'm not looking for someone to fix me or save me. I just want someone who shows up. I can do that. He stepped closer. I'm good at showing up. It's the staying I struggled with, but I want to learn. Then we'll learn together. He kissed me, then soft and careful, like he was afraid I might break. I kissed him back, harder, trying to tell him I was stronger than I looked. That I could handle his grief and he could handle mine. That we didn't have to be healed to be whole. When we pulled apart, Ivy was standing in the doorway. Are you guys boyfriend and girlfriend for real now? She asked. Yeah, I said, looking at Cole. I think we are. Good, because pretend is boring. She went back to her room and Cole laughed, pulling me close. She's not wrong. She usually isn't. We spent the rest of the day painting Ivy's room the exact shade of purple she wanted, periwinkle. It turned out, which Cole had researched extensively. We got more paint on ourselves than the walls, and at one point Ivy accidentally painted a handprint on my jeans, but it felt right. Like we were building something together, one imperfect brushstroke at a time. Around dinner, my phone rang. Drew, I almost didn't answer. But Cole saw my face and took Ivy outside to look at the backyard, giving me privacy. What do you want? I asked. I heard you bought a house. Drew's voice was exactly as I remembered, smooth, controlled, with an edge that suggested I'd done something wrong by breathing. How did you? Vivian mentioned it when I called about Ivy's school records. I need copies for my lawyer. Your lawyer, why? I'm filing for joint custody. I think it's time Ivy and I reconnected. The words hit like cold water. Are you kidding? You haven't seen her in 3 years. You don't pay child support. You haven't even called on her birthday. I've been getting myself together, working on myself, and now I'm ready to be a father. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to disappear and then show up when it's convenient. Actually, I do. I have parental rights. I'll see you in court. He hung up. I stood there shaking as everything I'd built threatened to collapse. Cole came back inside, took one look at my face, and sent Ivy to her room to practice her airplanes. "What happened?" he asked. I told him. All of it. The custody threat drew sudden interest in being a father the way my ex-husband had always known exactly how to make me feel powerless. "He's not going to win," Cole said firmly. "He abandoned his daughter for 3 years. No judge is going to side with him. You don't know Drew. He's convincing. He'll make it sound like I kept Ivy from him like I'm the problem. Then we'll fight back. You document everything. Every missed birthday, every unpaid bill, every time he could have shown up and didn't. You get a good lawyer. You don't let him intimidate you." We, unless you want to do this alone." I looked at him, this man who'd shown up when he didn't have to, who'd made my daughter laugh, who'd kissed me like I was worth staying for. "I don't want to do it alone." "Good, because you're not." We called Vivian, who immediately went into crisis management mode. By the end of the day, I had a family law attorney consultation, scheduled a spreadsheet of Drew's absences, and a sister who'd promised to testify if needed. But more than that, I had Cole, sitting beside me on the floor of my empty house holding my hand, while Ivy practiced paper airplane landings in the next room, promising he wasn't going anywhere. The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In that time, Drew tried every manipulation tactic he knew, calling late at night, sending flowers to my apartment, showing up at Ivy's school during pickup. Each time, Cole was there, not fighting my battles, but standing beside me while I fought them. Vivian filed for her divorce officially, and Mom stopped by my new house with casserole and tears, admitting she'd known David and Vivian were struggling, but didn't know how to help. "None of us know how to help," I told her. "We just show up and try." "Is that what Cole is? Someone who shows up?" I looked across the room where Cole was hanging curtains that Ivy had helped pick out. "Yeah, he is." "Then hold on to him. Men who show up are rare." The custody hearing was brutal. Drew's lawyer painted me as unstable single mother, inconsistent income, history of depression after the divorce. They brought up the shower crying, which meant Drew had been talking to Ivy, trying to get information. But our lawyer was better. She presented Drew's complete absence from Ivy's life, medical records, showing he'd never taken her to an appointment school, records showing I was the only emergency contact, bank statements, proving zero child support. She called Vivian, who testified about the abuse she'd witnessed. She called Ivy's teacher, who explained that my daughter had thrived since the divorce. And then she called Cole. I hadn't known she would, but apparently she'd reached out to him, asking if he'd testify about Drew's recent behavior. "Mr. Brennan," she said, "can you describe your relationship with the defendant?" "I'm dating Maren. I've been helping her move into her new house." "And have you witnessed any interactions between Drew Hollis and Maren Hollis?" "Yes. He showed up at the house 2 weeks ago when Maren and her daughter were there alone. He was aggressive, demanding to be let in. When Maren refused, he started yelling that she was poisoning his daughter against him." "What did you do?" "I arrived as he was yelling. I identified myself and asked him to leave. He threatened me physically before leaving." "Objection," Drew's lawyer said. "This is hearsay." "It's first-hand testimony, Your Honor," our lawyer countered. The judge allowed it. Drew glared at me from across the courtroom, and I felt the familiar fear start to rise. But then Cole caught my eye and nodded slightly, and I remembered I wasn't alone anymore. In the end, the judge denied Drew's petition. He granted him supervised visitation once a month if Ivy agreed, but I retained full custody. Drew stormed out without speaking to anyone. Outside the courthouse, Cole pulled me into a hug. "You did it. We did it." Vivian took Ivy for ice cream while Cole drove me back to the house. I was exhausted, wrung out, but also lighter than I'd felt in years. "Thank you," I said as we pulled up, "for testifying, for being there." "Always." He turned off the car. "Maren, I need to tell you something." "Should I be worried?" "No, maybe, I don't know." He took a breath. "I'm in love with you." The words hung there, impossible and perfect and terrifying. "You don't have to say it back," he continued quickly. "I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring this out. But I needed you to know. After everything with Claire, I promised myself I'd never wait to say important things again." I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd sat with my daughter in a garden and admitted to being sad, who'd helped me buy a house when he didn't have to, Who'd stood beside me through every hard thing without trying to fix me or change me? Who'd let himself be broken in front of me and trusted I wouldn't run? I love you too, I said, and it terrifies me. Good, I'd be worried if you weren't terrified. He kissed me then, and it felt different from before. Not careful, not tentative, just real. 3 months later, we were in the backyard of the house planting Claire's hostas. Cole had kept them after selling the Hawthorne house, storing them at his apartment. But now he wanted them here in our garden. Are you sure? I asked. They were hers. They were, but she'd want them to live, to grow somewhere they'd be appreciated. He looked at me, and she'd want me to stop living in the past. Ivy helped us dig holes, her hands covered in dirt, asking 1,000 questions about plants and growth and whether flowers could feel happy. Cole answered each one patiently, and I watched them work together and thought about how family isn't always what you're born with. Sometimes it's what you build. Later, after Ivy was asleep, Cole and I sat on the back porch with wine and watched the sky turn purple. Periwinkle Ivy would correct me. I'm moving in, he said suddenly. What? Not immediately, but soon, if that's okay with you. He turned to face me. I still have my apartment, but I'm here most nights anyway. And I want to be here officially. I want to wake up with you and Ivy. I want to make breakfast and help with homework and argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash. That's very domestic. I know. Boring, right? No, I took his hand. It's perfect. There's one condition, though. What? I need to keep seeing my therapist. Once a week, no negotiating. And some weeks I'm going to be a mess. I'm going to have bad days where Claire's ghost is loud and I can't think straight. I'm going to need space sometimes. Okay. And you need to see someone too, about Drew, about the control issues, about whatever makes you cry in the shower. That's not fair. Isn't it? We both have work to do. We might as well do it together. He was right. I'd been thinking about therapy, but putting it off, telling myself I was fine. But fine wasn't enough anymore. I wanted to be whole. Okay, I said. I'll make an appointment. Thank you. We sat in comfortable silence, watching stars emerge one by one. Inside, Ivy was dreaming about paper airplanes and purple rooms. Around us, Claire's hostas settled into new soil, preparing to grow in spring. Cole, I said. Yeah. I'm glad you were sad that day in the garden. Me too. And I'm glad Ivy asked you about it. She's wise, that kid. She is. I leaned against his shoulder. She asked me yesterday if you were going to be her new dad. What did you tell her? I told her that families come in all different shapes, that sometimes dads are the people who show up and stay, not the people whose DNA you share. And she said she'd been calling you dad in her head for weeks, but didn't want to ask if it was okay. Cole was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick. Is it okay? Yeah, I think it is. He kissed the top of my head, and we stayed like that as the night grew cool and the city sounds faded to quiet. Two broken people who'd found each other in a garden, who'd pretended until it was real, who'd chosen to show up even when showing up was hard. It wasn't perfect. Some days were still difficult. Drew continued to be a presence in our lives, showing up occasionally for supervised visits he'd cancel at the last minute. Vivian's divorce got messy, and I spent late nights helping her sort through the wreckage of her marriage. Cole had bad days where he couldn't get out of bed, and I had panic attacks about losing everything I'd built. But we showed up for each other. That was the thing we'd learned, that love isn't the absence of pain or fear. It's choosing someone anyway. It's staying when leaving would be easier. It's building a life out of small moments in ordinary days and paper airplanes that barely fly. 6 months after Cole moved in, Ivy came home from school with a drawing. It showed the three of us in front of our house, standing beneath a sky the exact color of periwinkle. At the bottom, in her careful 7-year-old handwriting, she'd written my family. Cole hung it on the refrigerator, and every time I saw it, I thought about gardens and grief and the courage it takes to love again. And I thought about how sometimes the best stories aren't the ones where people are saved. They're the ones where people save themselves together. We weren't perfect, but we were real. And that was more than enough. 2 years later, I stood in the backyard watching Cole teach Ivy how to identify different types of clouds. She was 9 now, all elbows and questions, still obsessed with understanding how things worked. That's cumulus, she said, pointing. Good. What about that one? Stratus close. Stratocumulus. She groaned. There are too many kinds of clouds. Life's complicated, he said, ruffling her hair. Get used to it. Inside the house smelled like dinner, something Cole was cooking because he'd discovered he loved it, and I discovered I loved not doing it. The hostas had spread throughout the garden, thriving in their new soil. We'd added a vegetable patch last summer, mostly unsuccessful, but satisfying to tend. My phone buzzed. Vivian David signed the papers. It's official. I'm free. I texted back. How do you feel? Scared, relieved, both. Want to come to dinner? Cole's making that pasta thing you like. Be there in 20. Family dinners had become our tradition. Vivian mom sometimes Cole's parents when they were visiting from Arizona. We'd learned to sit with each other's imperfections to love without trying to fix to show up even when it was uncomfortable. Adrian and his partner Marcus had come to dinner once after running into us at the grocery store. Turned out they'd gotten engaged and Adrian looked happier than I'd ever seen him. He'd thanked me later for not forcing something that would have made us both miserable. Sometimes the kindest thing is letting go, he'd said. I thought about that a lot, about how holding on too tight to safety meant never reaching for joy, about how the people who loved you didn't ask you to be perfect, they just asked you to be real. Cole came inside Ivy, racing ahead to wash hands before dinner. He pulled me close, kissing my forehead in that casual way that still made my heart stutter. Good day, he asked. Better now. Vivian's divorce is final. I know, she's coming to dinner. Of course she is, he smiled. This house is becoming a refuge for broken people. We're all broken, that's the point. He kissed me properly then, and I let myself lean into it, into him, into the life we'd built from pretending and made real through showing up. Later over dinner, Vivian announced she was going back to school for landscape architecture. Mom cried happy tears. Ivy asked 17 questions about what landscape architecture meant. Cole refilled everyone's wine and caught my eye across the table. I love you, he mouthed. I love you too, I mouthed back. And I meant it. Not the perfect fairy tale love from movies, but the real kind. The kind that showed up on bad days. The kind that held you while you cried and celebrated with you when you laughed. The kind that said, I see you, and meant it. After everyone left and Ivy was asleep, Cole and I sat on the back porch like we did most nights. The hostas rustled in the evening breeze, and somewhere a dog barked, and the city hummed its endless song. Thank you, Cole said quietly. For what? For taking a chance on me. On us. Thank you for being worth the risk. He pulled me close and we sat there as the night settled around us. Two people who'd been broken and lonely, who'd found each other in a garden, who'd pretended until it was real. The weight of pretending had lifted long ago. Now there was just the weight of love, the beautiful, terrible, necessary weight of choosing each other day after day in all our imperfect glory. And it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.